So capitalism, as I say, is not bad, except when it uses interest-based loans, as that creates a cycle where everyone has to create more each year to pay back. Okay, so and then they might not have enough money, and then they have to borrow more money, and they have to create even more. Okay, so as all wealth eventually or originally comes from the earth, it means economies that use interest necessarily have to mine the earth to death, because it all comes from the earth. It's like money doesn't come from nowhere. It's like if you didn't have food, you wouldn't have anything to sell, and it kind of builds up. Okay, so everything, money you can imagine, originally has its value or comes from the earth. Okay, so if you want to create more money, well, where does that come from? Right, you've got a certain amount of money at the moment. Okay, then you borrow, and then somehow you have to give more money back than you had in the first place. Where does that come from? It has to come from the earth. So you have to keep mining the earth. Is that confusing? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I understand now.
Cool. Okay. So Islam and other religions ban interest in the economy, as God, who is the source of all ancient religions. So as a Muslim, you have to believe in all the other religions. It's not like the God suddenly woke up and said, "Here's Islam," and forgot all of the people. Like in Islam, we're told that everybody of all time and all places always had a religion. So we believe in Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and all sorts of like Mother Earth religions and whatever. Okay, just so kind of side information. Okay, the original sources, so they've been corrupted over time, right? Anyway, so new, so God, who's the source of all the truths or the whatever from ancient religions, knew of the dangers of interest. So that's why, God said, don't do it. Okay. Interest also has many other dangers, like it encourages materialistic greed. Okay. So like the idea that you can have now something you cannot afford if you take a loan, that is part of the problem. Okay. So it encourages this materialism, like overexcitement with stuff you can't have. And so it does that, and it's the only way countries can afford to pay for wars. So, like, wars are not good for the environment. Let's just keep tying it back to the environment, right? So, wars are incredibly expensive, like billions and billions of pounds, right? I can't remember the last time there was one. There was like Afghanistan war was like a couple of trillion pounds. Like, nobody can afford that. No country can afford that. It's just like, and we're like trillions of pounds in debt. Like all the rich countries are in trillions of pounds in debt. So basically, in short, okay, obviously, war can destroy the environment, really bad for the environment. This is how interest drives people to become insane like Satan. Okay, so like we're doing insane things, like starting wars, buying more things than we can afford, um, and on top of that, we're like, yeah, so many other bad things. Anyway, so not caring for the damage caused to our own planet is in short. Okay, some people may say that interest is a it is, sorry, a normal part of business. But that's not true. A more sensible approach to getting money for business is a straightforward investment. So instead of, you know, so in that case, investors have to think carefully if a business is a good idea. But with interest-based loans, banks often give loans knowing the money can't be paid back, in which case they will take your house, which they're very happy to do so, right? Okay, or whatever is secured on the loan. Okay, so have you ever heard? Did you know that if you can't pay your loan back and you said, "Oh, okay, it's secure, the loan is secured on your house," they can take your house, the bank. Did you
Yeah.
know that? Right. Okay. So it's not necessarily in the bank's interest to even care if the money is going to come back, because they know they'll just steal your house, basically. Right. Okay. So it's not a good system. It's only, and there's a million other things that are really bad about, interest-based loans. It's a good way. Basically, it's a way that the rich rob the poor more and more. Anyway, so I've talked a lot. Any thoughts? You came up with some brilliant disagreements a minute ago. Any more?
Mm. Well, it depends. That not everybody is born rich. Yeah? Some people are
Mm.
poor, but then they become rich. So it's not just I'm poor, I'm gonna stay poor. I'm rich, I'm gonna stay rich. Rich people can become poor. Poor people can become rich. So it's not really that unfair of a system because if you become rich, then you can take advantage of a system. It's not
I
like
think I know what you're
someone's
saying. Are you
birthright.
saying that if you're poor, then you need interest-based loans to get more money to invest in yourself in a business, whatever, to become rich? Is that what you're saying? Because
What
are
I'm
you?
saying is that
Yeah.
everybody builds off each other. Like uh, you have to take money from somewhere, yeah? The
Yeah.
money doesn't come from out of nowhere. Like if you're
Yes.
rich, you took money from poor people. Or actually, no matter how much money you have, that money had to come from somewhere else. So you have to use each other to climb up to the top. Otherwise, you're not gonna get anywhere.
Okay, so I agree that richer people should invest in poorer people because actually it's good for everybody because you can get quite lazy once you're really rich, you're not that motivated. Okay, so if you give it to the really motivated poor people relatively, then it will help them. And getting poor people less poor is actually good for the whole system because if you have lots of really poor people and a few rich people, there's going to be eventually a revolution. It's a very dangerous situation. So
It's also like
anyways,
natural selection. If you're smart enough to have a business and then
yeah.
you ask for a loan, you can
Yeah.
actually invest it and make money with it.
So
If
I'm not saying there shouldn't be investments. I'm just saying not interest-based investments because they're not always motivated to make sure you will pay the money back. Yeah,
but
but
it's
yeah.
your fault for asking for the loan in the first place then, that if you can't
Sure,
make it
you
back.
have to take some responsibility, it's true.